Hey everybody, Dutch Sense here. It's 7:32 p.m. Central Time on the 10th of September 2022, and I have some breaking news for everybody. A very large earthquake has struck over here in the West Pacific, 7.6 preliminary, going up possibly as high as 8.0. Could also go down a few points. We'll find out. This is about 30 minutes old, this earthquake, 7.6 in Papua New Guinea on the plate boundary. Now, subsequently, we also, around the same time, had a 6.4, which could also just be a reverberation from this extremely large earthquake that has struck in the West Pacific. I'm going to get the information from the USGS, and they have it listed already as ground failure, extensive area affected. A tsunami warning has actually been issued, and we're going to have to wait to see what the actual tsunami activity is. I can just tell you right now, I'm clicking on the site and it's not even opening up. So that being said, we would probably need to go check the National Data Buoy Center. So let's see, the NDBC buoys. And what we're going to do is just see if there's any buoys in event mode already. It's been 30 minutes, so there should be a spread if there is any tsunami activity. It should show up here. Now, again, all these sites, look, I mean, the way it's going to go right now is most likely all the sites, the government sites and so forth, don't have the bandwidth allocated, or if they do, it will take a few minutes for it to load. I mean, look how long this is taking here. Might also be my connection, but I've got all bars, and we should open pretty quick. So just looking at this, we'll back out the National Data Buoy Center in just a moment once it finally loads. And our big earthquake, yes, we do have at least one buoy in event mode now. And let me see if I can see the event details on this. Again, this is all going to take a minute to load. We got probably 1,000,001 people trying to log on all at once. We'll let that all load. We'll get back over and take a look at the quake. We should also open this up on the USGS plate boundary map, which will help people who don't normally look at this sort of thing understand what just moved, how big and how far it really shifted, because this is about twice the distance across the United States is. So we're going to take two US's and put them in here, and that's the distance between the 6.4 and the 7.6, and they're both on the plate boundary. USGS site literally taking the dive right now as I look at this. Okay, again, look, I don't know what to tell you guys. USGS site's probably not going to load for us to see the plate boundary map. Let's go back to the National Data Buoy Center, see if there's any other buoys that go into event mode while I'm talking. So this is the biggest earthquake in several months for the whole planet. It's on the plate boundary of the Indo-Australian plate, which finally the USGS site just loaded here. So looking across the West Pacific, we'll see a bunch of red lines here appear at some point. And the red lines are the boundaries between the plates. And over at Papua New Guinea in Indonesia, this is really, I can't believe it. Look how low. Look. You see our red earthquake here. So you'll see a red line appear that goes over to the west and connects to the 6.4 earthquake over to the west of the red dot over here at Papua New Guinea. So there we go. They finally loaded. These are the plate boundaries. This is the Indo-Australian plate, and it looks across over into the Southwest Pacific or the West Pacific. Now, I issued a warning for here at East Timor going into the S-shaped plate boundary right here, and we issued the warning 4 or 5 days ago and told everybody in this area that an extremely large earthquake was coming. And I'm not bragging or anything, but I do have to tell you we're right next to the entrance to the S-shaped plate boundary. Let me zoom in and show it to you here. Here's the spot in question, the S-shaped plate boundary at Indonesia. Here's East Timor, the island down here on the south side next to the letter D. Now, we had seen multiple deep earthquakes take place over the past few days, prompting me to do another video last night or this morning at 4 a.m., where I said we need to watch in between our current sets of deep earthquakes for a potential to go up a full magnitude from where we were. Well, where were we? We were at 6.2 to 6.6 when I did my last update and said we're going to go up another magnitude. Well, now here we are at 7.6. Now, the 6.6 struck all the way over here on the plate boundary over in China. And let me just get all the other earthquakes out of there. It's marked in red over there in China. Now, what you should be able to see is that 6.4 to 6.5 pretty much struck the halfway point between the 6.6 in China and the 7.6 over here at Papua New Guinea. But the halfway point, if we go around the bends of the plate, again, up here in China, going down around the bend of the plate, over here to Papua New Guinea, 6.5, 6.4 right in the middle, 6.6 over here in China a few days back, 7.6 now striking with most likely tsunami activity spreading out. I say most likely because, again, if we go over to the USGS site, we might be waiting all day long. Let me actually open up the earthquake from the USGS again and just see if it loads quicker this time. The initial shock of the quake in the past 30 minutes is probably wearing off on the public, if they even know about it at this point. But I want to go over to tsunami.gov and just see what it shows. Do they actually have a Pacific-wide tsunami warning issued for this? It is troubling to see the site not load very quickly when I do have full bars in the lower right-hand corner. And I mean, I'm on a somewhat broadband connection. All right. There we go. So they have it listed at 7.7 on tsunami.gov, but they don't have a tsunami warning, advisory, watch, or threat issued for the earthquake. So I suppose that's good news. Let's just see where the quake struck. It struck about 50, maybe 100 miles, 50 miles. Inland, we can still see landslides which take place out in the ocean, which can cause tsunamis. And we can also see plate boundary fractures that still happen even when an earthquake happens on land that can cause tsunamis. But in this case, there is no tsunami warning. I would like, at this point, to pull the coordinates and put them in on good old Google Earth and just go quickly see what's at the actual location. I'll tell you a story about a volcano right next to this 7.6. A couple years ago, maybe more than a couple, probably 3 or 4 years ago, we issued a warning for a 7-point-something earthquake to strike right here at this plate boundary at Papua New Guinea. That week, instead of an earthquake hitting, a volcano that hadn't erupted in over 2,000 years came back to life, and that was Mount Katovar. And it suddenly erupted and blew the island apart, and the mainstream media and professionals weighed in on it and said, it's the first unexpected eruption of the year. This is like 4 years ago. Let me show you where Katovar is, which is all the way right here over next to Blup Blup, the island of Blup Blup. That's the actual name of the volcano, and Katovar is there. So anyway, the earthquake is coming in on land here at Papua New Guinea, and we are just, anybody who's trying to pull this information right now on this location, obviously, I would imagine every copy of Google Earth in the world is open over there, plus internationally, to even look at this. I don't see any volcanoes listed on land here. We have a Pleistocene, ancient ice age volcanic field down here on the south side called Yelia or Yelia. It's far enough away that I wouldn't think it was related. I always look within about 40 miles. So I'm not seeing any volcanoes at the location. Let's just wait for all the info to load. There isn't much more info to load, and I don't think it is going to. Okay. All right. Well, the internet connection sucks, but I will tell you this. 7.6, nothing to scoff at. We are right here at the level where we expected to be. Go back and watch my videos from the past 2 days. Going into last week, warning for a 1 magnitude increase to take us from 6 up into the upper 7, mid to upper 7 range is where we were looking. And the warning area is, or was, Indonesia. So not just anywhere in Indonesia. We had warned here in Indonesia at the S-shaped plate boundary going as far east as New Guinea and as far north as South Philippines. With this being the center of it, now we are right on the edge of it with the biggest earthquake for the whole planet in many months. I would encourage you all to have an earthquake plan and be prepared. I was being serious when I was telling you that a few days ago. And, again, we get on and we josh around and we play around, and I try to make geophysics entertaining and fun for people online. But when I'm seriously warning an area and I issue a serious warning, I hope people take it seriously. And you need to go back and watch the video from a couple days ago. I'm not bragging, but I do have to tell you I warned for the area right next to this, where the S-shaped plate boundary is, where this arrow tip points, right there. Where the red arrow tip points is where I warned, and that's the spot right next to it that's been hit, just on the east side. Looks like the plate boundary is breaking apart here, going from Papua New Guinea all the way over into Indonesia at Sumatra, several thousand miles to the west, following the plate boundary, which is going to go over to Europe and Asia. Now, if you're in Asia, I would like to just tell you now, if you're in China or Nepal or Afghanistan or Iran or Turkey or Greece or South Europe or Italy, you're going to need to, hold on. When did this just hit? A new 5 just hit in Italy. North Italy at Switzerland in the last few hours. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay, wow. Okay, so breaking news. Europe just got hit with a 5 right in the middle of Europe. Right here, right at the France, Germany, Switzerland border region. Can you just say, sir? How about the same sized earthquake striking out at Iceland? A lot of movement going on, guys. A lot of movement going on. But we have a big amount of movement. Think of this like a big storm. And it's going to put a lot of rain down into a river. And the river is here where the red line is. And it's going to be flowing out over to the west. It's going to branch off and go up to Japan. It's going to branch off and go out over towards China, Nepal, Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, Italy. And this should all take place in the next few days. Additionally, the opposite side of the plate, United States, West Coast of Central America, and the West Coast of South America. We're going to see a big shift, a compensation, in response to this in the next several days going into next week. There's usually a back and forth like a tennis match. I'll give you several examples. Let me give an example of when it happened 4 times in a row. There was a 7.5 to 7.6 earthquake, which struck South Japan at Kyushu, right down here on the South Island of Japan. And it pretty much broke the island in half. A giant crack formed across like 3/4 of the island. This giant body of land there in South Japan. The next day, a similar sized earthquake struck across the plate over here at Ecuador. 7 point something. Major devastating damage in Ecuador. So first Kyushu, then Ecuador. Then the next day, a 7 point something earthquake struck at the Solomon Islands over here, the West Pacific. Then the next day, a 6.9, 6.5 to 6.9, somewhere in the upper 6 to low 7 range, struck off the coast of Mexico. So it was like 4 or 5 days in a row, first a 7 on one side, then a 7 on the other, then a 7 on the other side, then a 7 on the other. It went back and forth 4 times. That's just one example. I could give you several examples of this happening in the past. So when we get to a certain threshold, and it seems like it's mid-range 7, we start to see the plate compensate on both or all sides of the plate. When I say both, I mean east and west, but all sides can start to happen, and it looks like that's what's getting ready to happen. It's going to flow up to Japan. So in Japan, I would look for 1 magnitude less. I would look for 6.6, 6.5 to 6.6, and not just anywhere in Japan. I would look at the halfway points between the current sets of earthquakes to help determine the area to watch. So we have 2 deep earthquakes in Japan. You see them raised high off the globe. One is on the letter D exactly. One is next to the letter D up to the north in the Sea of Okhotsk. And in between the two, look who we have. Well, we have the most famous earthquake zone on the planet, where the 9.0 earthquake struck 11 years ago in 2011. But now we're going to look for something like 6.6. Something 6.5, 6.6, mid-range 6, to come in on land or next to, very close, Japan, next several days. Just one example. Over to the west, over into China. They already got a 6.6. We have a 7.6 and a 6.4 coming in. That means another 6 point something, mid-range 6, is going to be happening downstream from where the previous 6.6 struck. So 6.6 struck here this past week. Now look over to the west. So we're now going into north central China, where the 2 sets of rings overlap. So that's where we would watch on the North Taklamakan Desert, or just to the east of. Nepal, same thing. Plate boundary down here on the south side. Well, actually, hold on. This is Bangladesh going into India. Bangladesh going into India, same thing. So we should see like 2 sets of 6s actually head out across, one in Bangladesh, one up in China over the next week. Over to the west, Iran, high and dry, no earthquakes reported. I'll look on the plate boundary on the south side, right in central South Iran, right where the divot in the plate boundary is, and you're going to be getting the same size that came out of China. So if it's 6.6 in China, that means 6 point something coming over into Iran, middle Iran, central Iran, south central Iran on the plate boundary. Fourth spot to watch, over here in Turkey. Turkey right next to Cyprus, right next to, what is that, Syria? Anyway, on plate boundary, red line, there's Cyprus, the island, there's Turkey. And it's going to be going into 6 level as well, probably low end 6. So if we're looking at 6.5 in Iran and a 6.5 over in China, probably 6. Just maybe a half magnitude less, as the distance here we're traveling for this wave to go across, thousands of miles going around bends in the plate, might lose a little steam by the time it gets over here to Turkey. Then, Italy, where the 2 sets of rings overlap for our bigger earthquakes. So look at this. See where the 2 sets of rings overlap? Look who it overlaps on. Of all the places in the world, just north of Norcia, right along the plate boundary going into the Adriatic Sea to the east. So we've got Italy, the Adriatic Sea, then you got like Bosnia and Slovenia, Slovakia, Croatia. So right here, though, come on, Italy, plate boundary. What do I need to tell you about that? Look what's on your doorstep coming across over from the West Pacific over the next several days. It's going to flow over to Italy. It's going to flow over to Europe. Also, Central and South America. It's going to compensate. We should see similar sized earthquakes start to break out on the East Pacific, and then we can look down here to find our halfway points between the current sets of quakes. So Central Chile, for instance. Central Chile, already earthquake prone. We already know it. It gets the biggest earthquakes on the planet. The biggest earthquake recorded in history struck here in 1960. 9.5 or something. Caused tsunamis across the whole Pacific. Destroyed Hawaii and Alaska. That was in 1960. Anyway, here we are, and now look at it. Halfway point between the two, pretty obvious. Look, it's going to be most likely in the 7 range. So not only are we dealing with 6s over in the West Pacific, and 6s going all the way out over towards Turkey, and then 5s going to, over in Europe, we're going to watch for something like a 5 to 5.5 in Italy. So that's a big deal. 3s take down buildings, right? So over in Italy, it's going to be a 5. Anyway, over here in the East Pacific, it should be in the upper 6 to low 7 range, down on the coast of Chile again. And that's a big deal for them. On the north side, it's going to be more in the 6 range again, 6 to 6.5, more like 6.5. Striking right here in the middle in between our 2 sets of quakes on the north side in Central America and the south side down in Peru. United States, I'm not changing the forecast at all now. 5.9 to 6 is due off the coast of the United States in the next several days. I don't know if they'll report it. If they got guts, they will. Anyway, there should be movement on land that nobody can ignore, and that should be all in the upper 4 level. We have 4 different upper 4s. Let's just call it like a 5, basically, coming across that should strike in California. California's border with Nevada. Lompoc down to Ridgecrest. Northern California at Shasta and Eureka. That's 4 spots where we should see at least mid-range to upper 4s hit on land. Get everybody's attention in the next few days. So let me take you back to the start of this update. The biggest earthquake on the planet in the past several months just struck right next to the area where I issued the warning a few days ago. Now the spread is taking place, and it's going out across the West Pacific. I think at this point I should probably save this video, go upload it over to YouTube since there's no actual tsunami, but they're actually saying catastrophic damage on land. Land catastrophic failure. That's on the USGS site. Significant failure, whatever the word was. Whatever the adjective was. Major. So I'm guessing there's going to be some video that comes out over the next few days as they get online to upload, and we'll probably see how much significant damage happened there. This is all the more reason you need to pay attention to the earthquakes. Look, I put out the method how to forecast an earthquake to the world for free. You can test it if you want, but here it is. I mean, we can get it down to a region and within the magnitude and within a 7-day time period. And that's just me, the high school graduate, figuring out the pattern on this. I'm sure there'll be many more geniuses that actually show up after me. People that are really smart that can actually figure it out down to a very fine point. What's going on here, I think, is a standing wave of very low frequency or greater, ultra low frequency, extremely low frequency, ELF, VLF, ULF, somewhere in there, and a standing wave is forming following through these red lines that I've been showing you the whole update on the USGS map here. That these are acting like wave guides, and that there's a very low frequency of some kind where the peaks of the wave are where the earthquakes are breaking. It's the force that's causing the earthquakes. It spreads out over the course of days and maybe a week or two at the most. Starts down below the plates, comes up through these red lines, and then flows out and away to the opposite side of the planet. Path of least resistance, too. So there's some kind of actual physical flow here. Some kind of wave is going through the plates. And then the earthquakes are breaking off along the way. So the earthquakes are the byproduct of this wave that's traveling huge distances in short periods of time, days. And it starts with the deep earthquakes, which you can see raised high off the globe. And in between all the deep earthquakes, these are like people lifting on something. And then the middle point between where all the people are lifting, flexing takes place and braking takes place up above it. So a bunch of people lift down below on something, and then up above it, brake in the middle. Think of it like that. Leverage coming in on the underside of the plate somehow. Anyway, some people that are much more skilled in this geophysics thing than I am will have to get into that. There's no denying that you can now know a region in a time frame and within a magnitude. And I've already published how to, so if anybody's curious, you can go look it up, and I'll probably do it again in a step-by-step video or something. But let's save this, get this out over on YouTube. Everybody needs to see it. The biggest earthquake for the planet in months is hit, right next to where we issued the warning. Word up. Peace out. Much love. Don't be scared. You need to be prepared. You need to know what to do when an earthquake strikes. You know, this black screen, okay? Well, just imagine. Close your eyes. Touch your hand to the screen. I'm touching my hand to the screen. You touch your hand to the screen. What is this? The Dutchy Club? The Dutch 100 Club. Anyway. So, guys, again, you need to have an earthquake plan. And it's just basic. Take shelter underneath a table or a desk. I would also recommend that you have an emergency kit that contains the change of clothes and a set of shoes and socks. And it needs to be seasonal specific. So for summertime, you need the summertime clothes. For wintertime, you need the wintertime clothes. You also need to have a flashlight and batteries and blah, 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 blah. Food and water and blah, blah, blah. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't sell any of it. But you could probably solve a lot of your problems at the dollar store with the disposable products and fruit roll-ups and granola bars and those kind of things that are easy to carry around. They last a long time in airtight packaging and they're high energy, high sugars, high proteins. Don't be cooking a steak on day one. I wouldn't. Anyway, those kind of things. You can make sure that you at least have the basics covered in some kind of backpack or bag, and you have it somewhere where you can just grab it easily. It's not stuffed at the top of a closet. You have it somewhere you can get to it pretty quick, or somebody else in your house can. It'll come in handy. Oh, your keys, extra sets of keys, for crying out loud, guys. Extra IDs, all the paperwork that you need to do it. Why not have copies of all that stuff in your emergency kit? Extra set of keys, you'll probably end up needing them anyways. You lose your first set. In the emergency kit, there's my extra set. I've done that myself, so. All right, guys, we're done talking. Now it's time to upload.